Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be making a nice healthy pasta with a herb butter sauce. It's absolutely amazing and really quick to make on weeknights, so it's one of my faves and it's definitely in my rotation at least once a week. So let's just get into it. I'll show you the ingredients. Here I have a half a pound of shrimp. It has been deveined and washed in cold water. I have 1.5 tablespoons of unsalted butter. You can use, I want to say you can use margarine as well, but I really like the taste of butter, or you can omit it and just add a little bit more olive oil. I also have chili flakes, I think it's called, some salt, cayenne pepper, and a pinch of sugar, olive oil, vegetable stock, pepper, lemon, and some of my favorite catelli pasta that cooks in 8 minutes. I use whole grain just to make it a little bit more healthy, but you can use white pasta if you prefer that. Oh, and I also have these herbs here. I have fresh basil, cilantro, chives, onion, and just one, I'd say this is about a medium garlic clove. So first off, I'm going to start with seasoning my shrimp. So for the shrimp, it's really simple. I just add the cayenne. If you don't like spicy food, then I'd say omit the cayenne, because the red pepper flakes that go into the sauce will be enough, but I like really spicy food, so I added about 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne. I'm going to add also 1/4 teaspoon of salt to this, and I'm going to add about 1/4 of a lemon. And then I'm going to stir it. Maybe a little bit of pepper too. I don't know how much this is. I'd say just turn it like 4 times, should be good enough. Pepper is really to your liking. I'm not one who likes the taste of black pepper too much, so I tend to go a little bit lighter on the black pepper, but if you're someone who likes black pepper, then maybe you can do a bit more. So that looks good. I'm going to set this aside until I'm done while I make the sauce. I actually forgot to mention one of the most important ingredients in this dish, and these are cherry tomatoes. Are they cherry or are they grape? Well, not sure, but cherry tomatoes or grape tomatoes work really well in this recipe. And here it's summer right now, so the tomatoes have a really, really good taste. In the winter though, sometimes I swap out these cherry tomatoes for canned tomatoes, just because they're preserved at a time where they're at their freshest and they taste better to me. So about 3/4 of a pint of cherry tomatoes will also go into this. So for the sauce, I'm going to start off with chopping my onions. And I actually don't know why I always start with chopping onions, because that's what makes me cry. And for some reason I always start off with that. So by the time I'm done, I'm usually tearing up, but I don't know, I always do that. Maybe I should turn on this pan to preheat. And I'm just gonna leave it on a medium-high heat. Once it's hot, I'll add the olive oil. I'm just chopping these onions roughly. They shouldn't be very big though, so roughly diced will work. For my garlic clove, the way I like to get the skin off is just by hitting it with the side of my knife. And once you give it a few hits, the skin comes right off. I cut this little tip off here, and then I'm just going to roughly chop this. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just make sure they're not in big pieces. Okay, so my pan looks hot. I'm just going to actually lower it down a little bit. And to the pan, I'm going to add about a teaspoon of olive oil, extra virgin, and I'm going to add the half a tablespoon of butter. I'm gonna let that melt, and as soon as the butter is melted, I'm gonna add the onion. It's melted now. I'm just gonna use my knife and transfer it over to the pan. I really like to use this big knife because it works as a knife, it works as an onion scooper upper, I don't like to wash dishes, so I try to use my utensils in multiple ways. The onions should only take about, I'd say 2 minutes. The reason I have it on low heat is so that all of the oil and the butter doesn't evaporate from the pan. I don't really want to use a lot of those. So low heat, or maybe on your stove it would be, I'd say about a medium heat should be fine. I'm going to cook these onions for about 2 minutes until they are nice and soft. Now is probably a good time to add the garlic. Make sure that your heat is on no higher than medium heat, I'd say. You don't want the garlic to burn. Once the garlic is burnt, I'd say you have to start over. It's just very bitter and it's not a good taste at all. So make sure you keep a close eye on the onion and garlic mixture. While I have that working, I'm going to start with my tomatoes. These can be added whole if you want. I don't like the way they burst in my mouth when I chew on them in the dish, so I always cut them. Then they release their juices really easily and you get a really nice sauce. It has a really good tomato flavor. So that's about half of a pint. Again, I'm going to use my scooper knife and add it to the pan with the onion and garlic mixture. I'm going to give that a good mix and let that cook down for about maybe 2 minutes before I add the other ingredients. To my tomatoes and onions, I'm going to add the hot pepper flakes, the sugar. The reason I'm adding the sugar is because sometimes the tomatoes can be really acidic and I hate that. So sugar, a little pinch of sugar neutralizes that and it just makes it really delicious. I'm also going to add just, let's say, 6 turns of pepper. If you like more, you can add more. I'm also going to add a pinch of salt here. That should be good for now. Okay, so I'm going to leave that for another minute or so. While that's cooking, I'm going to chop my herbs. For the cilantro, I just took maybe like a half a handful of cilantro and I ball it up to make it easier to cut. And then I use my big knife and I just go over it roughly. Doesn't have to be perfect again. And that looks about right. I'm going to also chop up some of my chives. Maybe I'll just fold it over to make it easier. Okay, that's done. I'm going to take my basil leaves. I have about 5 leaves here. I'm going to just discard this hard piece. Again, I'm going to ball it up and just chop it roughly at first and then go over it. So my tomato mixture has been cooking for about 4 minutes now. I'm going to add the vegetable stock. As soon as I add that stock, I'm going to add the seasoned shrimp that we prepared earlier to that, because you want the shrimp to have liquid to cook in. Make sure it's 1 layer so that it cooks evenly. I'm going to leave that alone for now. Should take about 3 minutes. My heat is on a medium-low. You don't want all of the liquid to evaporate because that liquid is what's going to coat your pasta. So make sure that you keep an eye on it. If you feel that it's evaporating too quickly, you may want to reduce the heat or maybe just pop a lid on it. I think that I'm okay with the lid off for now, but I'm going to keep an eye on it as well. So I just tried the shrimp, the liquid, and I feel like it needs a little bit more salt, so I'm just going to add 2 pinches of salt to start. And the shrimp will be ready in about a minute, so I'm going to add the remaining tablespoon of butter. So this is where the magic happens. When you put the butter in, the sauce just thickens up so nicely, and the way it coats the pasta, it's heavenly, honestly. The first time I made this recipe, I couldn't believe that I created something so beautiful in 15 minutes. It's amazing. My mouth is watering now. So this is lemon juice. I'm going to add that to the pan as well. It's about a half of a lemon. And now The second part of the magic is here, these beautiful herbs. I only need about a teaspoon of each, so yes, I did cut too much, but you can always use it for garnish after. So this is about a teaspoon of basil, some chives, and maybe it's about a tablespoon. Let's go with a tablespoon of each. And that was cilantro that I just added there. So I'm going to give this a final stir, and then it should be ready to be tossed with the pasta. So here I have my pasta. It's all drained. It was cooking for about 14 minutes. Just according to the package is what I cooked it for. I used about a half a box of the pasta. Maybe I'm just going to leave it at that for now. I left about a quarter of the pasta still in the pasta strainer because I think that this is enough for the sauce. Okay, this smells so amazing. Can't wait to eat. Okay, so that's pretty much done. I'm going to leave it for about a minute. I'm going to top it off with some fresh herbs. So this is basil. I really like basil. If you don't like basil as much, you don't need to add it, or you don't need to add as much. Chives are really amazing. Just going to add what was left there, and the cilantro. I'm not going to go too heavy on that because I don't love cilantro, and to me it has a really strong flavor. So just did a little less of the cilantro. Okay, that looks about done. I'm going to transfer it now to my pasta dish. Okay, so I'm just going to transfer it to my pasta dish. This looks so good. And as a finishing touch, I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of parsley on the top. Honestly, I don't like parsley at all. It's probably my least favorite herb, which is why I didn't add it to the dish with all of the herbs. If you like parsley, by all means add some when you're adding all the herbs to the sauce, but I hate it, so I don't add that. I do like dried parsley, and that's just for color. I don't find that it adds any flavor. I just like the way it looks. So this is the finished dish. I'll see you again in the next video. Bye!